we can just get started immediately. I have a folder that I have named Docker, and I'll be opening it with VS Code. Just a minute. Okay, so I will create a file, a Python file actually, and we'll just get started from there. So the first thing that I want us to do is to build a small image. It will be quite not very complicated, just a small image, and then we can see some of the things or some of the commands that we need to do. And remember that we have to build an image before we can start a container. So I'm going to have a very basic code, a Python code, just to add two numbers. So I'll say input 1, and I'll be getting the input from the terminal or from the user. We can say that. So everything that we're going to get from the user is going to be of type string. So since we are dealing with numbers and we don't want them to concatenate instead of adding, we have to convert it to an integer in Python. And then inside here, we now pass the command to get an input from the user, which is input, and just a dummy message like enter a number. And with this message, or even can just be clear by saying enter first number. And then whatever will be entered here will be saved after converted to an integer. It will be saved in this variable that we have right there. And we can create another input for these, and we can say enter second number. There will be also taking some input, and we'll be saving that input in, let's say, a different variable that we are going to say input 2. So now we have two inputs from that will be entered by the user. So we can now calculate sum by just saying sum is equals to input 1 plus input 2. So with this now, we have the sum, and we can just print it out through the user. And I'll use the format. We'll say the sum is, and then I'll have those curly braces, and then dot format, and I'll pass in sum. So what this does is it's going to take whatever sum is and replace them in the place where you have the curly braces. So it will be the sum is, and then the sum of the numbers that you have entered them. So with these are quite basic code, and we can make some notes about things that we should have in order to run this code. So first thing is, if we were to run this code without using Docker or anything, we should have Python installed. That is the first step, that we must have Python installed. And the second step is we must use a command, and the command that we'll be using in order to run this code is python which is going to come after you, that variable keyword, we can say, is going to be available after you do the installation. Of course, these you can check online how to do that, and then install it. But the second part is use that command that will be provided there, and now you can also say the file name. So these are the two things that must be done in order to run this code. And I've already done the first step, installed. So now if I say python app.py, then I type 20 and 10, then I get that. So this code, we can say it's working correctly, or whatever it's supposed to do, it's doing it. Now, assuming now we were to put this code into Docker or run it with Docker, and assuming that I never had Python installed in my laptop, but I still want to run this code. So we saw that is an example where we can use Docker when you don't want to do a lot of setup in your machine, but you still want to run the code. So in order to come up with an image so that we can come up with a container, and we saw that image is the blueprint that contains everything that is needed in order to run this code that we have right here. That is the configurations, the code, all the environments, the start files, all those. So we saw these are some of the things that are needed in order to come up with an image. So with that said, I'll create a special file that I'll write Docker file in that case. So this file is supposed to have, we can say, Docker commands. And now the Docker commands are going to be based on how do you run this project. So we saw that in order to run this project, we should have this installed. That is locally, we should have this installed. And then we must use a command, that is that command to run the project. So we are still going to build a file, but we already have this in mind. So the first thing is we have Python installed. If you go to Docker Hub, let me use this, just say Docker Hub. If you go to Docker Hub, most likely, not most likely, you'll find an image for Python. So that image is more of like how you would have Python installed in your laptop. So there's a base image that contains everything that comes with Python, the keywords, and everything, the libraries that come installed already in Python. So all those are contained there, and you can see this the official image of Python. So it means that if I have this image, the base, this is my base image, is like I have the first step settled. So I have the step where I need to install Python settled. So now it's more of like, yes, we are building an image, but we need other images that have already been built, like Python, to help us with the Python libraries and the code and the library that is Python, which is going to understand now our code, if we can say that. So from that, we always say from, and you pass a base image. So the base image that we need in this case, it's Python. So with from base, and then you pass the base image, and the base image has to be something that is valid or something that we can find from either Docker Hub or your own images, if we can say that. So for this case, we are using Docker Hub, more of the same way if I was running JavaScript code. My base image will be Node, or will be Node. And also, if I'm creating a database, my base image can be MongoDB, can be Postgres, can be MS SQL, all those. So with that, we now have a base image, but we have the image. So let's write, this was, we can add a command. This was locally. And we also need to think the same, but this time we can say with Docker. So yeah, we need to still have Python installed. And now I'll add another step that we need the Python files, or rather we can say the project files, because locally we already have the code right here, but inside an image, a container, we don't have the code. So we have to copy the code. So we need that before coming up with the base command. So you create something that is called a working directory, and then you give it a name with a slash at the beginning. This name can be anything, but most likely C# being used. But this name can be just any variable that you want to use. So now it's more of like, I have Python in this image. So that means I can run Python code. And now I've created a folder, which I've named it app. So the next thing should be, now, can we copy the code that we have in this directory into this folder that we have here? So we copy the code, and that is using a command. You're supposed to give two arguments, or arguments to this command, or parameters. So the first parameter is the source, the other one is the destination. So the source is where you're copying from, and destination where you're copying to. So the source, you can just put a dot, and this dot is going to symbolize that I'm copying everything in this folder that I'm in. And then the destination, you can write two things. First, you can just write to app like that, or rather you can also write to dot, which will just infer the working directory that you have them. So just to make it clear, let's go with app. So now I've copied the code into the working directory that we have created. So it has the code now. It has the runtime environment, which is Python. So the last thing should be, can we run this code? So now we can run, but how do we execute this code? So every image that we are building ourselves, we must always give a command that we have to run in order to be able to see the results. So you go with cmd, and then you say, what is the command? For us to, when we were running this code, we typed this command. So that was the command to start or to run this code. So you now type this, but now separated with comma. So the first keyword was Python, and then the next argument was this. So based on the arguments that you have, you just separate them with commas. With comma, you can replace it with everywhere you have a white space, and then this is going to be another thing. If there were more than three, you can just continue typing and having them there. So with this, we now have everything that we need. So we started with an environment, which is Python, which came by us saying we want a base image. And then we created a folder, which you can say the working directory. We copied the code from this part, which was this folder, that we are inside here, which is session 2. So we copy all these files inside this folder that we created. And then the starter file is, or the starter command is Python, and then app.py. So that is the command to get our project started, or to run our project, if we can say that. So with that, now we can build an image. So we are supposed first to come up with an image before we come up with a container, because a container, we can say, is an instance of an image, and an image is something that defines the configurations, the runtime environment, and we can say the starter commands that we need in our image. So I'll now say use the keyword Docker. This keyword is available because you have already installed Docker, or I have already installed Docker. To come up with an image, you use a command called build, which you say, I want to build an image. And for this case, let's name this image, or let's give this image name. So if you don't give, the image will be assigned, let's say, some random IDs, which you can still use, or they may not have a name, but they will have some random IDs that you can use. So to avoid all that, so that we can know the images that we are typing or we are building, we can just give this image a name. So this -t means tagged, which just means that you give it a tag. And then a tag is more of like a name. And then you specify the name after the -t. So for this one, you can just say first image, like that. And then the last command means that where can I locate the Docker file? So we'll pass a period or a dot, because the Docker file is located in the same folder that I'm in. So that is what it means, that you just locate it from this folder that I'm in. And with this, you'll start seeing our image start building. And even it never took that long, already we have the image done. So if I open my Docker desktop, I have this one image. I was using it earlier. It's a database. And then I have the image that we have just built. Right now, you can see it's latest. Okay, these are tag. Images, you can give two parts to the name. So you can give a name, and maybe you can say version 1 or version 2 or version 3. So now this can build an image that has a tag of version 1 or version 2. So if you don't give a tag, they always tag it as latest. So that is the difference between what we have, or what the tag is also about. So the name is right here, and the tag can be based on versions. We can say that. So now we have this image. So the next step can be, can we come up with a container that we'll be able now to see the results that we produced? So yeah, to come up with a container, the commands is docker run. Same to image, you can also give your container a name. If you don't give it a name, this time they give some random funny names. So let's try to see what name will be assigned to this when we run it. So we'll say docker run. Docker build is for building an image. Docker run is for running a container based on an image. And then you have to give the image name. So our image name was first image, and that now will run the image that is tagged with first image latest. So if you want to run the other one, then I'll have to pass v1. So if I don't pass anything, then they go with the one with the latest tag. If I pass something, then they go with the one with that tag. So if I do that, I'll get an input error that is saying file app.py. Okay, we'll check on that in a few. So me say into that, and then or rather, let me try first running the other one. Yeah, well, we can see the same error. So let's check if there's an error in this part where we have input 1. So it's integer input, enter first number, and then we are closing it there. So that should be okay. And we are using that. So let's see what this means. So file slash app.app.py and error while reading this file. End of file error. Let's see what that means. So to just make it simple, let me first remove this line and just say sum. And before I even check everything, I also want to try running this project locally. So locally, I can see it's giving the right results. And every time you change your code, now this is a part that we'll check later. Every time you change your code, then you have to rebuild your image, which doesn't make sense, but that is what you have to do. But in future, we'll see how we can stop rebuilding the images and just use something that will help us detect that the code changed and we need to also rebuild it. So
Okay, Jonathan, while building, did you put a dot after you said build dash t my Python?
yeah, I did put that.
Yeah, put a dot after
Yeah, I
that.
add it
Yeah.
because that will have thrown an error even if we never add that dot. So let's try running this again. I think maybe it could be Python error.
Can you
So
do run dash it and
yeah,
then the name of the
that was some of the error that I was expecting to get. So let's see if
okay.
that will solve. I wanted to get the error so that we can explain what the error is about, but let's see. Yeah, now so what has happened is the issue here is Python, or rather, the code that we are running is supposed to use the terminal. And when I run it without giving it a chance to interact with the terminal or the commands to interact with the terminal, then it's causing that error. So now, if we just go to Docker run and just say help, no, this should not be that way. So Docker run and help, you'll get all the commands and some explanation with what they do. So right somewhere you'll see I. Let me see where I can see I right here. So I means interactive, and T means terminal, or whatever this means is terminal. So we need the terminal so that we can input the numbers. So, and we need to keep this kind of interactive. Interactive means that I can interact with the code that we have written through the terminal. So that's the reason why we are adding this flag of hyphen IT. So means that it's running in interactive mode and I can use the terminal. So with this now added, we are able to run an image or a container in this part, and you'll find, yeah, the containers have some funny names that are given. So there is one of these names. We are running a container with this. So let me first delete all this so that we can also learn how to give our containers names. So in order to give a container name, and which will make it a bit easier for us to track the containers that we are using, we can just say two hyphens name, and then you say my let's say first container, I think I have a typo there, but anyway, that is how you can write a name or give your container a name, and instead of now being given those funny names, you can now get a container with your name. And even here, you can also see whatever logs we have on the other side. So that was our first image that I wanted us to Dockerize. We're going to do another image, by the way, just to make sure that we are understanding everything. And also, I wanted to do something with a different language so that we just are not tied with one language. So I'll say this other image is going to be an image that you can just say an express image. So I have just created another empty folder. We are going to write the code from scratch. It won't be a big piece of code, just a small piece of code. And I'm going to create something that is called index.js. So this is a JavaScript code, now a piece of code, so that we can also practice on JavaScript, and on Docker is not language independent or anything like that. So with this one, I'm going to create a small backend application. No much routes, just a route and a port or something like that. So and we'll be writing some of the commands here, some of the steps that we are taking. So the first step that we take is initialize. So let me just write the steps. So the first thing is initialize the project with Node. The second thing will be install Express, which is the framework that we'll be using. The third thing will be we'll write some code. The fourth thing will be select a port, and the last thing will be just run the code. So we'll use maybe a command, not maybe, we'll use a command to run the code. So we can do the first step by just saying npm. npm is a package that comes whenever you install Node. So you must have Node installed locally in order to run npm. So npm init, and that is a short form for initialize, and then you say an -y. So there are some questions that will be asked. When you just give an -y, it means that you answer yes to all the questions. And that will come with a package.json, which is just a file that tracks some of the libraries that you have in your project. Now, with that, we need to go to the next step, which is install Express framework, because Node is a runtime environment, Express is a framework. So we'll say npm install Express. And we'll have Express installed, and you'll see that another file was added, but also you'll see that inside the dependencies, you now list some of the dependencies that your project has. Package.json is there for some versions control of the dependencies that we have, both with that are required by Express to run. And now we can go to the part of writing the code. So to write this code, we'll first say constant express. So I'll import the library that we have. So I'll just say we require express, which we have just installed. So I'll just add a comment there. I just say import express. And then whatever we get back is always a function. So execute the function. So express, whatever we get back from importing express is a function. So we'll just say constant app is equals to express. And I'm sure you can see this if you just go to the definition, you'll see that it's declared as a function. So you have to execute it in order to get whatever is exported by that function. And we have executed it with those parentheses, and then we saved the output of that inside app. So we can now say app dot only create one route, which is a get route, and this will be to slash home. Just after the domain, is it the domain name? And then we have an extra route after that. So this gets into things, a request and a response. And of course, you can also write this code in TypeScript if you prefer typed code. I think mostly I prefer typed code, but anyway, let's just do JavaScript for this. So I'll give a status code of 200, which means success. And then I'll send back some code that I want to write using HTML, and just say welcome to or let's say we are learning how to Dockerize a Node application. Then we close our h1 tag. So this is some HTML code that will display. And then that is just for the route part. So we can say this is the route. And the last thing, not the last, the last, we need to expose a port, because whenever you export, you're running your backend, you need a port that we can always hit to whenever we want to get some results from your backend. And then here you'll say we are listening to port 4000. Just you can give a callback, which is not necessary, is optional, by the way, just to help us know that our app is running. So let me remove that. Just say console.log. Console.log on the other side is what we have seen as print. And then you can just say server running. And this will assure us that our application is working correctly. So now we have written the code. We have selected a port, which is 4000. And we need to now run the code. So to run the code, the command is node index.js. So the other way it was Python app.py, now is node index.js. And actually, we can just go to localhost and just say 4000, which is where our application is running. And I have to add home at the end because we added a route home there. You can see we are getting whatever data we were sending back. So now we can say our application is running correctly. And this is working locally, but now we have to think about how can it work with Docker. So how it will work with Docker. So we can decide to first we need let's say the things that we need. So we need node environment, which is our runtime environment. Environment is more of like when we say we need Python. So we need Node. So locally, I already have Node installed. That's why this code is running. So we can say we need Node install it also in our container. We can go to the next step, create a folder. That step, we can copy everything. Or instead of copying everything, Docker has something called layers. and layers are going to help you build your image better. And better, it means that faster, and we'll see about that right there. So you can copy everything. We can say we can install the libraries also. And because one thing about this node modules file that is always added whenever you do an installation or an installation of a package from npm, it's a big folder, just the same way that you don't push it to your GitHub page, because it's something that is big and we can always regenerate it with some commands. So there's no essence of having a big folder being pushed to GitHub or something like that. We can also regenerate that folder inside the container that we are creating. So we'll install, and then a container is always isolated. So that means that is not accessible from the outside. So we need to give access from outside. So because we'll be running this code maybe in a browser, just like this. So we expect this page to also work whenever we come back here. So we need a way to give access from the outside because our container is isolated, remember. And then you can just say a start command or a starter command that we can always use whenever we want to start our container. So the first thing, I don't want my node modules copied. So I love something called, in Git, we have something called git ignore. In Docker, we also have Docker, don't know if it's Docker ignore. So it means whatever you have in this won't be copied inside your container. The reason I'm not copying that folder, it's simple as it can be regenerated, and again it's going to make my image bigger for nothing while copying, so it's going to take time to copy. So I can just ignore it because I can regenerate this folder again. And now let's go ahead and have our Docker file. Make sure you type it well, not a capital F there. So the only capital is D, and the rest is small case. So again, what image do I need? I need an image called node. And that image is also available in Docker Hub. Yeah, right here, node. But the node image that, if I just write node, of course, it will go to the latest version. If I write it that way, it will go to the latest version and just download. Latest version is 22, so it will download this 22 right here. Now, that 22 is going to be around 1.1 GB, which is quite big. Now, they offer us a way in which we can download smaller image in terms of size, not 1.1 GB. Like I think 22 is 1.1 GB, but we can also download a smaller size, which is going to make our image build process a bit faster. So for that case, you can choose any of these, especially the Alpine versions. They are going to give you a smaller image. So we can go with 22 Alpine. So you give it as a version, the same way we saw that there is version 1 and the latest. So if we don't give a version, definitely is always going to be the latest. But for this case, I want us to use 22 Alpine. And again, it has to be something that is existing. So now this is a bit smaller image compared to 22 node, and then 22 or latest. So with that, we have node. So the second thing, we can now create the working directory, and we can just call that folder up. And now you can copy everything from source to the source is the folder that we are currently in, to app. That works. And now I have everything copied. After copying that, which will now copy package.json, package.log.json, index.js. Yeah, those files, because we have a docker ignore that is ignoring the node modules because we say we don't want that copied. Now, how can we regenerate this node module? So node module is going to be generated by running a command. So this is where you use run, and the command is npm install or npm I. So if I, for instance, decide to delete this folder, or yeah, it's not taking a lot of time. So I've already deleted the node modules folder. And again, I can also continue this image that way. And I want to regenerate it, I'll just say npm install. And then the folder will be regenerated. So that is one of the reasons that we're ignoring it, because it can be regenerated. So we now run an npm install. And after this, we want this code to be visible from the outside. So we expose a port to the outside whereby people can always listen to, or the container will allow you to access it from that port. So we expose 4000 port. And then lastly is where we come up with the commands. And the commands is node comma index.js, that way. So with this, we should have an image that is built in a few when we build it, I mean. So just to do a recap, we started with the environment that we need, and we chose a bit smaller version compared to just say Node, which is a bigger version, bigger size. So we went for a smaller size, created a folder, we copied everything from this location to app. So that is going to copy everything apart from what is inside Docker ignore. And then we did an npm run, npm install. And npm install is going now because we ignored the node modules folder, and we need to have it in order to run this, because this app can't run without node modules, by the way. We reinstall it, but this time we are installing, we regenerate it, but this time we are regenerating it inside the container. Expose a port to the outside, and then we have the starter command right there. So now I can clear this, and then we can say docker build. I can tag this as our first node, the lava dot at the end. Say this dot is going to symbolize that we are building from the Docker file is located in this directory that we are currently in. And the image start building. And we can see that it's going to take some time. You notice that the run command took sometimes to run, and then the image is now built. If we go right here, we can find first node with the latest tag. And if we were to run these, we could say docker run. Now, this time, when an image is using a port, you have to kind of select your port, and then you bind it to the port that has been exposed. So that means that the traffic that we can pass from this port, or whatever request you are passing from this port, and by request is whenever you have written a port like this and just click enter, that is making a request. So whatever request we pass from this port will be redirected to the port that this container has exposed, which is 4000. And then we can give it a name, which can be node container. And then you give the image that you're building from. So the image is first node. And then now you can see actually we are getting that message that server is running, and this terminal is going to be blocked because we have run this code in a mode that we always call attached mode. So with this, now the port that we have exposed is not 4000. I wanted to be clear on that, is 4001. So the traffic from 401 will be pushed to 4000 with that container. So right now I need to access 4001, and now I can see that we are getting that command. And just to tell you that I'm not running this code anywhere else, it's just the container running, and I'm able to access everything that is inside the container, or the code that is inside the container, and be able to make requests to that container or whatever I have inside that container through my exposed port and the port that I'm binding on the outside. So the port that we did bind on the outside is 4001, and then the exposed port by the container is 4000. So you have to say that the traffic that is going to come from 4001 should go into 4000 inside our container. And with this now, you can now build your image. Now, this terminal is completely blocked. So if you ever want to run another terminal, or if you ever want to stop it, you just need to close it or disable it. And you can come here and just say now, the the Docker image, the container is still there, sorry. The container is right here, node container, and it's still running, as you can see. So some of the commands to stop a container is just write docker stop node container in order to stop this container from it's running right now, just to stop it. And you'll just get the container name back, and now you can see it's not running. So if I wanted to run it again, is docker start node container, and you can see we still get the same output, but now we can see that green light, and then the status is running, and that means our container is running. So you can also use the graphical user interface to stop it, to remove it, to start it again. All those are available. If you want to start this image, I could just click right here, start, and that is already started. If you want to stop it right there, I can stop it that way. And if I want to delete it, I can also delete it this way. And again, on the other side of images, you can also do the same, but to delete an image, you have to make sure that there is no container that is using that image. Now, back to this code, I'm not content with it because there's something that is happening. So Docker runs in something called layers. So if the code, if we change a piece of this code inside the index.js, just a piece, learning how to Dockerize a node application, and then you can say it's fun. So if I change that piece, then you'll notice that if we just use the graphical user interface and just run this, the change is not there. So we have to rebuild this image. Again, there's a solution that is coming afterwards in future sessions on how we can stop rebuilding these. I think actually maybe the next actually with the volumes. So now my point is we see the affected commands when it comes to rebuilding. And one of the affected commands is this, because we have now to recopy whatever, we have to recopy the content again because something has changed. And Docker is going to do that for us. And now we have changed the code. We have not changed the dependencies. So that's a problem. We changed the code, yes, but we haven't installed any new library or package. But the code runs from the place or from where a command needs to rerun again. So this needs to rerun because we have changed the code. And now any subsequent command that comes after that will be re-executed. So that's a problem because we haven't changed a library or a package. So there's no need of running this. We have just changed the code. So now with that, Docker stores some layers and they're going to act as cache. And these layers help us with building the image a bit faster. So, but this way of the way we have written this code is not going to be built any faster because if we change the command there, then the subsequent commands are going to be rerun again. So we'll reorganize this to do first. Let's copy two files first. So I'll say copy package dot, I'll put a star there. So we can say in between these can be anything and just end with JSON. And then we copy it into app. So that means copy a file that is starting with package as a dot, or let's just actually remove the dot so that because both of them don't have dots. So we can say copy a file with package. So start with package as anything in between and ends with a JSON. So this star is more of like can represent anything. So the files that meets those this command is package, can have anything or nothing, and then .json, or package can have anything which log will be represented that there, and then ends with JSON. So these two files are going to be copied inside app. And now we run. I'm going to move this command up to there. So we will run npm install. So that means now, just that minor change means if there is no package that is installed, and if a package is installed, these two files have to change. So if there's no file in a package or file installed, then we can skip these steps, and they're going to cost us or they're going to help us with using less time to build our image, because we can skip some of the step and use the cache that is already there, or that is a bit of layers. So this has a layer, this has a layer, this has a layer, this has a layer, a layer, a layer, a layer. So if the code that we have changed is something inside index, then the previous commands won't rerun. That is after the first run. We have to say after the first run. They won't rerun again because nothing has changed. And then we only run these commands and we have the same output. So right now, if you just do a Docker build that, as you can see right here, these things are running in steps. So it has to go 5 steps. And you can see the first step, the second step, we can see that part of even better if we just rerun this command without changing anything. See what happens. So you can see this step used cache, cache, cache. So they are using the cache because they have not changed. So there's no need of me rerunning this command again, yet they have not changed. Okay, this was no, we never used cache because it was the first time that we are running these commands after rearranging them. So we needed to first run for the first time. But now for the second time, this won't run. And I can just display this by just going to index. And if we remove let's just add it's more fun. And we rebuild this image. So we're expecting that all this won't change. But from here, the cache should not be used because we have just changed something. So it will continue, it will have to re-execute that command. And as you can see, we use cache right there, cache right there, cache right there. This command is re-executed because we did change some part. And that is the all advantage of using, not of using, but of also how you arrange your commands based on layers. It can also help you with subsequent rebuilds of this image. Instead of just repeating a command, we can just use the cache part. Yeah, I think we are right inside our hour, and now time to take questions. Because we have covered the 2 projects that I wanted us to do for this part and practice with. Juma, any question that was asked before?
No questions. I don't know if you are done or
Oh yeah, there's a
Kaguru.
and
Yeah, yes. Kaguru, go ahead.
I think you're on mute if you're speaking. You can unmute yourself.
Kaguru, unmute yourself. Click on the mic on top of your laptop or phone and then start and ask a question. Anybody else with a question, they can ask. Maybe he has problems with his laptop.
Yeah, you can also type on the chat.
Yeah, you can also type on the chat if you don't want to ask. Okay, it seems like no one has a question. Jonathan, maybe if you have anything more than that, or maybe you want to wind up, you can take it ahead.
Yeah, just to wind up, there are more commands that we're going to see. I just prefer doing things a lot more practical and with different examples. I'm sure we're going to see different commands as we continue on, different ways of writing code. So yeah, we can say we have covered some of the commands, but even a better way is just use the help tag. If you just write, if I just want to know something more about an image, I can just write Docker image and then -help, and it will tell me all the commands about images. So if I want to remove an image, if I want to list all the image, if I want to inspect an image just to see the data in that, we have already seen build. If I want to give a tag, which is what we have seen with that -t, if I want to remove, if I want to pull an image, pull is from Docker Hub to your local machine. You can see that command is just been written there whenever you want to download the node image into Docker locally, that is not locally, but from Docker Hub to your image. And then push is from your local to Docker Hub. For instance, if you have an account, works the same as GitHub. How you always push your code and you always pull your code if you have used Git commands previously. So same case with if you want to more commands about the container side, that was the image side, you can say docker run help, and then you can see all these commands and they have a minor explanation on the left side. So these are touch mode. This just means that it's going to block the terminal. We have been running in a touch mode is always the default. You can see other CPU detach mode, which is something that we are going to look at. Environment variables, we are going to look at these whenever you want to use some secrets or things like database passwords. Host names, you can look at these with interactive mode. There's labels, there's memories, there's names. So each and every command, there's networks. We are going to look at them when we get to network part. So all these are commands that you can look what they do. There's the remove part, which removes the container automatically when it's stopped. There's this -t, which just means a terminal. Volumes is right there. We're going to look at this next. I think our next session should be about volumes. They're working directly. So all these commands, you can always look at them from this part, the help tag, which is really helpful to you to just learn some of the commands and also get some minor explanation of what they are doing. So with this, you will also learn about more and more commands, and also will be using more and more commands as we keep on learning. So that's all. Thanks you everyone. Thank you for your time, and back to you, Juma. Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you for joining this session. It was very nice, and I hope you had no questions because he actually took you through it very well. As you can see, we are just advancing each and every day. By the end of this series, you will know Docker inside out, so it will never disturb you. You'll be building your images, you'll be communicating between different images using those protocols of communications, as he said. And how we continue with this journey. So next session, what we will do is we'll have a day off, and then after every day off, we'll have a session. That's our plan, so that those people who have problems with installations and everything, questions, we summarize them, then we see what next session we can actually do better. So for that further ado, I'll see you guys back on Monday with Jonathan again. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.